Sean "Diddy" Combs, one of the most influential figures in modern music, is officially heading to prison. Once celebrated as a hip-hop mogul, record executive, and entrepreneur, Diddy has now been sentenced to 50 months in federal prison for 2 prostitution-related convictions. It's a stunning fall for a man whose career helped shape an entire generation of artists. But behind the fame, the music, and the money, investigators say there was another side. One filled with exploitation, manipulation, and control. Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened, from his conviction and courtroom apology to the emotional reactions across the industry. This is the story of how one of entertainment's most powerful icons fell from grace, and what comes next. It all began months before the sentencing, when Sean "Diddy" Combs was arrested in September 2024. Federal prosecutors accused him of organizing what they described as a pattern of exploitation and coercion that stretched back years. By July 2025, after weeks of testimony and media coverage, the verdict was in. Combs was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He was acquitted of the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, but even the lesser convictions carried heavy weight. The case marked the end of a long legal battle that exposed the darker side of an empire once celebrated as a symbol of Black excellence and business success. What began as whispers and online speculation turned into a federal case, one that changed everything for the man once known as the King of Bad Boy. When Diddy walked into the Manhattan federal courtroom, he was no longer the confident mogul the world remembered. Observers described him as quiet and withdrawn. His head lowered, shoulders hunched, hands clasped together. The atmosphere was tense. As the judge prepared to read the sentence, Diddy spoke softly, addressing his former girlfriends, friends, and family. He called his behavior disgusting, shameful, and sick. He admitted that his children deserve better and said he had failed his mother as a son. It was an emotional apology, one that brought visible tears to some in the room. But for many, it was too late. The damage was done, and accountability was now in motion. Judge Aaron Subramanian didn't mince words. He sentenced Combs to 50 months in prison, just over 4 years, along with 5 years of supervised release and a $500,000 fine, the maximum allowed. But beyond the numbers, it was the judge's message that made headlines. He said the sentence was necessary to send a message to abusers and victims alike, that exploitation and violence against women is met with real accountability. He referenced Diddy's now infamous freak-offs, the private events prosecutors said were far from consensual. The judge firmly rejected the defense's claim that these were intimate, consensual experiences, calling them acts of control, not connection. It was a moment that underscored just how seriously the court viewed the case and how far Diddy's image had fallen. During the hearing, Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic delivered one of the day's most pointed remarks. She told the court that Diddy's respect for the law is just lip service. Slavic revealed that even as he awaited sentencing, Combs had already begun booking speaking engagements, apparently expecting an early release. "That is the height of hubris, Your Honor," she said. Her tone was sharp, a reflection of how prosecutors viewed Diddy's attitude throughout the case. They argued that he had yet to take full responsibility, portraying him as a man still driven by ego and influence. To them, this wasn't just about punishment. It was about setting a precedent for what happens when power goes unchecked. But Diddy's defense team painted a very different picture. They argued that beneath the fame and headlines was a man who had already begun to change. During the hearing, his attorneys played a 12-minute video montage, showing Diddy mentoring children, raising funds for education, and participating in charity marathons. It was a glimpse into what they called his human side, a reminder that redemption was still possible. They urged the court to consider his decades of contributions to music and culture, and asked for a sentence of no more than 14 months. Their message was clear. The man sitting before the court was not the same one accused in those reports. As the video played, witnesses said Diddy became emotional, quietly wiping tears as his past achievements flashed before him. In the end, the judge handed down a 50-month sentence, roughly 4 years, but with credit for time already served, Combs is expected to spend closer to 36 months behind bars. Once released, he'll face 5 years of federal supervision and the challenge of rebuilding his life and legacy. He'll also have to pay a $500,000 fine and comply with strict release conditions. While the courtroom chapter is closed, the public fallout is only beginning. His businesses, partnerships, and even his catalog are under review. And for the first time in decades, Sean "Diddy" Combs is not the one controlling the narrative. The world is. The news of Diddy's sentencing hit the entertainment world like a shockwave. Within minutes, hashtags like #JusticeForSurvivors and #FreeDiddy trended across social media, proof of how divided public opinion still is. For some fans, this was long overdue justice. They pointed to years of whispers and accusations that never reached court, until now. Others, however, expressed disbelief, saying the punishment was too harsh and that the legacy of his contributions shouldn't be erased. Industry voices were cautious. Some stayed silent, while others acknowledged that this moment marks a turning point for accountability in entertainment. A former collaborator told Variety, "Diddy built an empire that changed music forever, but somewhere along the way, he lost himself." Clips of old interviews resurfaced, moments where Diddy spoke about power, fame, and control, now replayed with new meaning. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, crowds gathered, one side chanting for justice, the other asking for forgiveness. And as Diddy begins his sentence, one question remains. Is this the final chapter of his story, or the start of a reckoning across Hollywood? Sean "Diddy" Combs, a man who once ruled music, fashion, and culture, now faces a future defined not by fame, but by consequence. For years, his name symbolized success, luxury, and influence. But behind the empire were secrets, stories, and decisions that finally caught up. Now those whispers have become verdicts, and the legend has changed forever. This isn't just the downfall of one man. It's a reminder that in Hollywood, power and truth often collide, and when they do, the results can shake the entire industry. And as Diddy begins his sentence, the world waits to see who or what falls next. If you're following the truth behind Hollywood's most powerful names, don't scroll away yet. The next story we're covering will make this one look tame. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch what happens next. Trust, start.